Welcome to another episode of Reptile Fight Club. I'm your co-host, Justin Julander.
And I am your host, Justin Julander.
What is going on, Chuck?
Not much. You can't be the co-host.
Oh, I can.
You can't.
Co-host and co-host.
No.
Well, now
you're always the host.
You're making me like Michael on The Office, and you're.
I'm second fiddle. I'm second fiddle.
All right, we'll both be the hosts. How about that?
You're the boss. You're the boss.
Well, man, it's been a minute, huh?
Long minute. Yeah, I feel like I don't even know you anymore. It was you did a whole herp trip and you conquered all things rattlesnake, and yeah.
Yeah, we herped together. That was a good time.
Yeah, we did herp together. That's fair. Yeah, I had a killer time for one day. That was fun, man. Jordan's the shit, dude.
Yeah, that was awesome. We got to herp with Jordan Parrott and his brother. Was it? I want to say Steve. I'm so bad with names.
I think you're right. Because I need to like get embarrassed by like having to ask somebody their name, and then I'll never forget it. But I always forget it. If I don't. But I think you're right. And yeah, what a cool bunch of guys, or two guys. Just. I don't know. A lot of cool experience they had, and knowing all those. They grew up out here, so they know the Larry Black and the Lloyd Lemke and the they know the Barkers, and just they know all those people who are almost like legends of lore in the carpet community. So it was just kind of cool talking to them and all their experience, and just. Man, they know that desert quite well.
It was an really impressive just knowledge base. I mean, 1,000 nights of herping, that just blows my mind. That's crazy.
And everything we found was completely sick. Wasn't it all just so nice? I'm like, oh my god, over and over again. It was great. So it was what a treat. What a good time. What a good chance to see you. And then you got to leave your sad little lonely co-host behind and go have a game fun with the Podfather and the Nipper and the Wolf, and all kinds of
Bobby Pebbles and
Bobby Pebbles. I mean, dude, woof.
The new NPR intern, Dustin Gran.
I just heard that they had a new intern. I was listening to. I've been so busy with work, and I was on the NPR chat and was seeing all this stuff that was getting talked about from Carpets and Coffee 62, and I'm just like, what is happening? What? I'm not, I didn't read through the whole thing, but I skimmed a little bit, and then I was like, I have to listen to the episode and figure out what the heck is going on. So. Yeah. So I'm all caught up.
Pretty crazy. It was fun. But that was a good time herping with you and Jordan and Steve, and kind of that's their stomping ground. So they grew up. They were out visiting. So Jordan doesn't live in California anymore, but he was out visiting his mom, and so they drove down, met us in Borrego Springs, and we took off and did a few passes around the area, found some good stuff. So I don't know, what were the highlights for you as far as the stuff we were finding?
Oh, that speck was pretty nice.
Yeah, that was killer.
I think it was
red and just almost looked like a Ruger.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was just beautiful. It was so pretty, and it was it posed, and it just the whole thing was cool, and it was fun. I enjoyed talking to those guys. They're definitely. I mean, I'm not the herper that Jordan is, and I probably felt like I should have sat in the back seat and just been quiet. But what a fun and me and him have guns in common, so I could at least talk that with him.
That was a foreign language to me. I had no clue what you were talking about.
No, it was good. I was like, oh, finally something I don't sound like a moron about.
It was kind of funny. We had some gun discussion because Phil works at a gun shop and Nipper is into guns. And so they were having discussions and, despite Nipper's, enthusiasm for weapons and things, he was pretty baffled at the gun love that goes on in the United States and all the issues surrounding that we've seen. But, not to get political, but we kind of jokingly solved the problem, because we were,
of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
We were discussing it back and forth and Eric's like, hey guys, let's change the subject. Let's get off this. Yeah. But then we rolled up to some people that were, they were going out birding or something. And, I was like, I reversed the car kind of a long way. So it was like this long backup because it was all these people, they were piling out of the car, a van, like a bunch of students or something. And I thought, oh, maybe they're going herping, but as we backed up to their van, I'm like, hey guys, what you got going on? What you doing? And they're like, oh, we're going owling. So they're going to look for owls. So I'm like,
you're like, owling? What is
that? I'm like, have fun. No. We're not doing that. See ya. Yeah. Drove off. But like Nipper's like, anybody in England would have just told you to F off or something. And I'm like, that's why Americans like guns. And everybody went, whoa, the debate is settled. Exactly. Yeah, it was kind of funny. But
well, that's what Arizonans would say is everyone's polite because everyone has a gun. Right?
Yep. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun. That was a fun, story. But it was cool to watch you guys get, talk about that stuff and get all enthused. So
yeah. I mean, it's it's one of those things where it's like if I get both sides of it, right? Because you see these horrible things that happen, but like, people who have never been to the range with me or been around people who are responsible and were raised around guns and do it, follow the rules and I mean. It's not the same thing. Like, so you're kind of like looking at one thing and making a judgment about the whole thing. And then people who are into it are like, you don't understand.
Yeah. It's like
you don't get it.
Any issue is nuanced. There's a lot of different angles. There's a lot of different considerations. And to make it into a bumper sticker slogan of bad, good, is impossible. I mean,
it's like saying like, irresponsible retic breeders are what reptile people are like, right? Yeah. Like, no, dude, that's not at all the case. So,
but unfortunately, it seems that one bad apple spoils the bushel kind of thing, and that
absolutely, and especially when there's
reptiles and lots of,
especially when there's a narrative to be pushed and there's interest at heart, people will cherry pick what that looks like, and it's unfortunate because just like reptile keepers' rights, gun keepers' rights, we should all be working to understand each other and not tear each other's right to have things. I mean, and that's on both sides for gun keepers and reptile keepers. Like, we have to be reasonable. Like, we shouldn't be opposing common sense legislation, but we also shouldn't be like all for stupid ass legislation. You know what I mean?
That's the thing. It's like,
it needs to make sense.
I wish the reptile keepers had the lobbyists that the gun rights do, because I mean, if a cobra was killing somebody every other week, they'd ban cobras very quickly. But we've got us school shooting every other week.
But the amount of cobra owners in America versus gun owners is that you're talking apples and oranges.
Well, sure. I'm just saying they have a very strong lobby.
No, point made. and I mean, it's just it is, and
it's a hot topic, that's for sure.
Yep, for sure.
But anyway, I'm glad you guys could bond over that.
It was fun.
And leave me out. I
know where your sensibilities lie, so I don't want to. I don't want to tread on you too heavily.
Don't tread on me, man.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, I think that was quite a trip, and it started the other trip off on a good foot. We found 2 rattlesnake species in California. So we saw the sidewinder and the speckled. Yeah. And then over in Arizona, we found an additional 7. So that made 9 for me in about as many days. So we basically saw, a rattlesnake a day for those guys. Were there for 7 or 8 days. So, and then I drove both ways. I almost made it 10, but I saw 3 Great Basin rattlesnakes on the way home, but they'd all been hit by cars. So
gotcha.
But I did get my life for king snake out of it. So king snake in St. George. So
nice.
That was very exciting. I was really happy about that. And it was kind of a crappy deal, but it worked out okay. But I was driving through Arizona, getting to the top of Arizona, and all of a sudden there was a giant wildfire up in northern Arizona. So I had to reroute, take an extra 6 hours to go over through Las Vegas and St. George. And it was made for a long drive, but
that's a decent detour.
Yeah. And so I just kind of busted through St. George where, I kind of know the area. So I took some roads that I usually cruise, but just kind of used them to drive through town. Or I guess I didn't really go through St. George. I was kind of on the outskirts, on the out in the herping areas. And so I just took a pass through, areas that I would usually maybe stop and, road cruise or go hike around and look for stuff. But I was just like, I got to get home. I'm just going to make a pass through. And I contacted Aspen and Chris and said, hey, I'm driving through. How do things look? And they're like, it's pretty hot and dry. Probably nothing going to be out. And I like, kind of famous last words thing. And there was like a full moon that night and stuff. And so I'm driving along and all of a sudden there's a gopher snake on the road, and it was a big gopher snake. And I'd just been telling all the guys how calm the Utah, the Great Basin gophers were. And this thing was jumping at me and like hissing and like just kept repeatedly striking at me. Looked like a bull snake from Texas. Like he was had a little
wanted to make you eat your words.
Yeah. So once I picked him up and got him off the road, but man, he was not having it that time. So got him off the road. Then I drove a little further. There was another gopher snake. I think I saw a total of 8 gopher snakes. A couple had been hit by cars, but I think there were at least 5 or 6 that were alive. So, I mean, it was a busy snake night. And then, shortly after I saw the cow king, after the, 2 or 3 gopher snakes, and there was the cow king, and then the, handful of, Great Basin rattlesnakes. And then I swung up a little further north and hit another canyon just to kind of take a look and see, and saw a DOR, Great Basin rattlesnake, and it had a meal poking out of the side of it. Like this mouse was, it got hit by a car, but it was out probably on the road to help digest its meal. But yeah, a little bit of a natural history observation, but that was not
called the Last Supper.
I'd rather see him in the act of eating or something, but that's the downside of road cruising, I suppose. But it was a really cool trip. So even though it put me, I think I pulled in my driveway at like 5 a.m. and then I got up for work at 7. So it was like a rough, You
went to work?
I went to work, man.
What in the hell, dude? Yeah. Do you have much flexibility at work? Like if you say you got to be at work, you got to be at work?
I do. Well, no, I do have a lot of flexibility, but I had stuff that had to be done kind of thing, or we just got a new contract and I was trying to get ready for that. And so it's been a little bit of a, busy couple weeks after getting back from a herp trip. That's never fun to come back full into it, but there's always a lot of catch up to do. But what do you do? You gotta make those sacrifices, I guess. So
Captain Insano shows no mercy.
So yeah, I'm excited to get back.
So seems like every herp trip, a name is coined. Something of merit is earned upon the NPR radio network and its brethren and sisters. Was there anything coined on this trip? I haven't heard anything coined on this trip.
Stat Sig, man, Stat Sig. You gotta.
Oh, okay. I did hear Stat Sig. What?
So we were talking about how, I think it was Nipper brought it up. He's like, you guys all say stat or 100%. 100% or something. And so like they were talking kind of how funny it was that everybody started using that across the network. And I'm like, I don't use that. Nothing's 100%. I'm a scientist. I'm like, it's got to be statistically significant. And so I'm like, I'm going to start saying stat sig. So yeah, the whole trip was like, they'd start to go 100%. I mean, stat sig. Yeah. It was, so that's
pretty good.
One of the coin phrases from the trip. Yeah, not
that's pretty good.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a good trip. So yeah, it's always fun to herp with those guys. I had a really good time. It was fun to have Nipper out, have him, I mean, he'd been to the US before and he'd done a little, kind of a little bit of herping, but not a full herp trip to the US. So this was that first time.
And it sounds like you guys found enough rattlesnakes that he went home probably happy as a crumpet at a tea party.
Yeah. I mean, his, level of enthusiasm, let's just say, is very reserved as a Brit. He was like,
"Oh, of course."
He'd have to tell you,
"We would not."
I am absolutely buzzing, mate. That was like the extent of the. I mean, that's like jumping up and down and hooting and hollering and stuff. So it was pretty fun to see.
We would not expect him to sacrifice his British demeanor in a show of cataclysmic American excitement.
We're like, come on, man. You just let it out. You're in America. You can do it.
No, mate. No, mate.
I'm absolutely buzzing. That was the most excited.
Did you almost step on a rattlesnake?
Yeah. I had another close call this time. Yeah, what would a herp trip be if I didn't almost step on a rattlesnake? Now this
probably
was
safer. I think the word is safer.
Maybe, but then you wouldn't see it, so maybe, I don't know. It was. It wasn't that close. I mean, it was a big H-rock, so probably if I was too close, he probably would have tagged me, So they're not known for their calm to me. Although he did sit pretty still. I think that's the nice thing about
probably because he knew he couldn't reach you.
Yeah, but the nice thing about rattlesnakes is they rely first on their camouflage.
And then
crypsis first, and then defense second, and then if you're not going to leave them alone at that point, then
they're going to offense.
Use the arsenal. But he was pretty well behaved. I got a cool picture of him coming out from under my hat, from this hat I'm wearing right now, so that was kind of fun. And it was one of those nice pink ones from that area.
Did you try to put a hat on him?
I just put it over him to get him to coil up, and hold still for photos kind of thing. The old throw your hat over him trick,
Thought maybe you were like, trying to put a hat on him. And
I brought a little cowboy hat and I put it on him. I put the little strap around his chin.
Oh my gosh.
He held so
You're like, hog nose, we do Aatrox.
I wanted to impress Owen with my skills because I know how much he loves that. It's fun to
that would be a second level of boop and snoots, right? Like if you're doing it with hots.
For sure. I did. Well, I'm not going to say that on the podcast, but yeah, I didn't boop his snoot, but
good job.
Maybe I booped something. We don't know.
I feel like you might have booped Keith McPeak's snoot with your trail pick. That was pretty funny.
What's that?
That you guys did going up the side of the mountain.
Oh yeah.
Keith did the thing of like going over the side, and then Phil posted the one that's like looking over the edge, and I called it McPeakin.
Yeah, that's right. That was another phrase that was coined by you from.
Well, I wasn't there though. I don't think that counts. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't get credit unless you were there.
That's true. So that's true. Yeah. All right. Well, anything going on in the herpetological world?
With me,
herpetocultural world. Yeah, you got anything hatching?
No.
We talked about did we talk about your coastals on here?
I don't remember. How
are they doing?
Coastals have hatched. Yeah, 100% hatch rate. I had one egg go bad early on. Still got 15 eggs. 8.7 on sexing. a nice range of stuff in there, some pretty red stuff.
Reds,
so there's going to be some nice animals that come out of that, I would predict. I tried to do a feeding a few days ago, and I just tried to feed the females and nobody was interested. So I was like, I'll wait. I'll just let them shed and try again. But just tried to do a live feed and nobody was going for it. So I figured, not ready. So we'll get closer to shed and try it on the other end of that. But so that's been cool. It's been really hot here. So and I just did my yearly rodent order, so I finally got food back in the house to start feeding snakes. So I don't really feed, until about now. I don't really start feeding again, and I just kind of, I have food for some of the smaller stuff, but all of it gets fed way less, if at all, until around this time. And just boned up on an order. So it's good to get monitor food back in the house and plenty of rodents and. So God, everything's just getting so expensive though. I was like,
times like that makes me glad I'm breeding my own rodents. But I mean, rodent food is not cheap either. It's going up in price. So I mean, I like, I get them from Lane Labs, and man, they have a good product. Great. It's they do a great job, and it's worth every penny, but boy, the penny's not getting any cheaper. So and then, California gas prices just make me sick. Oh yeah.
It's crazy, right? Did you fill up in California?
Oh no, I stretched it to Yuma as far as I could. Like we did fill up once before we set out herping, but I'm like, I'm not going to fill up in California again. I'm going to try to make it to Arizona, where it was, $2 or $3 cheaper. Borrego. Driving over to Yuma, it was a couple dollars cheaper. After I left you guys, I went and slept in a parking lot of a gas station for like 3 hours. Nice. I did herp a bit after I left you, but there wasn't much going on like later on. So but what do you do? It was nice to find that Kyanactus. It's pretty cool. So I had some really nice firsts since we've been on here last. I was on the herp trip, and my daughter called, so I'm like, maybe I'll have her go check, because before I left, the blackheads hadn't hatched and they were way overdue, and I'm thinking, well, there's another failure for this year. And so I'm like, just go see what's going on there. And she went out there and she's like, Dad, there's 2 crawling around in there. I'm like, what? So I'm like, send me photos, send me videos. So she's sent those to me. So 2 Western blackheads. I mean, it was pretty low % hatch rate, but I was happy to hatch them out, have anything come out of that. So that was
better than none.
Yeah. 2's better than 0. So, I guess I can say I've bred blackheads, but hopefully that's not the last time. And hopefully I've learned a few things that I can improve things. I don't know. It was a little, I opened eggs to see if they were, see if the embryos were still alive inside. I opened the worst looking eggs, and then they'd be moving around, but then a couple days later they'd die if the eggs were open. So I've just learned my lesson. Don't open blackhead eggs ever. It's the same I found with Woma eggs. I just, I don't know what it is, but opening them up too early or early at all just doesn't work out well. So I think if I would have been home and I saw those 2 pip, I would have opened the other eggs after that. I think it's probably safe at that point, but anyway. And then came out to the incubator the other day, and there was a little baby knobtail, southern banded knobtail, and their first wheeler eye. So I got my first wheeler eye. I've hatched cinctus before, but this was the first time I've hatched wheeler eye. I've got a few more eggs in there from the wheeler eye. So that was exciting. Really cute little things. They're just tiny little, knobtails. And then I got some what was it? Oh, I was sitting at work and I thought, I'll check on my spiny-tailed skinks. And so I have a little camera set up facing all the Egernia cages. And I mean, by all, I mean like 3 cages. So it's not like a huge Egernia collection, and then, so I'm watching and I see this small little skink moving in the Depressa cage. I'm like, holy crap, I have a baby Depressa. And so it looked like it was going down the wood and into the water bowl. And I had a fairly good sized water bowl in there. And I had almost bought some Stokes Eye from Joey Muggleston, a few years back. And when I was driving down to pick up a pair, one of them had drowned in the water bowl. So I'm like, oh crap, it's headed to the water. It's going to fall in and drown and I'm going to lose that baby. And so I just ran out of work and ran and drove home and, to check on it, make sure it wasn't in the water bowl, and it wasn't. So I replaced that water bowl with a smaller one, and so that it couldn't drown in. And so I have a baby Depressa, little pygmy spiny-tailed skink. So pretty exciting. So those. Oh, where'd you go? Chuck disappeared. Anyway, so three new species for me this year. So I'm pretty psyched about that. Otherwise, hatched out really cool jungle clutch. So this was from my striped line male to a zebra. Now the striped line male doesn't have any striping. So he was produced by a female that had really nice striping, and I bred him to a zebra female, and had a really nice hatch rate, and there's a few in there that are just crazy. This one zebra, it's like totally striped and just really cool pattern. It's like almost like a negative stripe. So it's got black going down its spine and then bordered by a thin zebra line, kind of hairline. It looks really cool. So I'm going to hold on to that one for a while, see how it develops. But, and then clutch of inlands, or 2 clutches of inlands in the last couple of weeks have hatched. So one clutch I got out a few weeks ago, and I had kind of a lower hatch rate. I'm not sure what happened with it. And some of the animals that took a while, I think I got a total of 6 out of that, out of like 15 eggs. So it was kind of a crappy hatch rate, but, there was, the sex ratio is crazy. I got, I think 5.1, 1.5. So 5 females, 1 male, and I need to hold back a male. I need more males. So I was like kind of bummed out. I'm like, oh man. So then the second clutch hatched out, 100% hatch rate, 15, 16 babies, and it's like twice as many males as females. So kind of balances out. We've got a pretty even sex ratio from the 2 clutches. So that's nice. And I'll be able to hold back a male or 2. So, and they look great. I'm really excited to see them shed and see what they look like. But the first clutch has started shedding and they look pretty sweet. So, it's tricky with carpets, of course, because they don't, hatch out the nicest looking. They kind of grow into their looks. So, just all that good stuff. So I'll have to wait and see how they develop, but I'm happy to hold on to them for a while to see how things go. So not a bad couple weeks. Now it's like time to set everything up and get everything going. The first clutch to hatch out, I believe, was a clutch of Eastern Stimsons. And so, I got those set up, last week or a couple weeks ago, after they'd all shed, and starting feeding trials with them. Let the fun begin with baby Antaresia, and then I'll work on getting all the carpets set up now. So the 3 clutches, and then I've got 2 more clutches of Antaresia that hatched out as well that I'm waiting on sheds on those. The Western Stimson's pythons, wheat belt Stimsons, and they're looking really nice. There's a lot of that white background color, so I'm predicting these are going to be stellar. I've got another clutch from the wheat belts from my stripe pair, so I'm really hoping to see some some nice stripes in that. So that'll be fun. Yeah, a lot of good stuff going on over here. I guess it makes up for a lot of stuff taking the year off last year when we moved. So nice to see them rebounding and producing this year. So it's really, really fun. Don't think I'm going to get children's or spotteds this year. So this will be the first time in a while that I don't, or pygmies. I'm not sure if I thought one of my female pygmies was completely gravid and ready to go. But it doesn't look to be the case. So, and you're back. You missed all my discussion on all the stuff I got hatched out. So,
oh man,
have to go back and listen to the podcast.
I guess I'll have to re-listen. Yeah. Sorry.
I might have told you on the phone already, but
yeah. I feel like I knew, but
yeah,
I missed the collective we knew.
Yeah, there you go. So, that's what's going on over at Australian Addiction Reptiles.
Did you talk about did you get any of your jungles feeding or anything? How's that going?
They just barely shed out, so I was just waiting for them to shed out. But I need to start setting them up individually. I usually keep the clutch together until they all shed, so and I can kind of see which ones I like better. And maybe a little hint for the listener: when I do my clutch numbering, I usually try to pick out the nicest ones first. So the lower numbers are usually either my holdbacks or the nicest ones, in my opinion, in the clutch. And that's not to say I have the best eye or anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say sometimes that's tough, man.
Yeah,
but I do feel like if you've seen a couple of nice jungle clutches color up, you can do pretty well. Pretty. Yeah.
I almost feel like a noob though. It's been a little while since I've hatched out many carpets. Like I kind of took a break from the carpets and focused on the Antaresia, but so it's kind of weird to have jungle babies again. It's kind of exciting.
Right?
I'm like, it almost feels new. So I don't know with
you're like Madonna right now. You're Madonna with a new book coming out.
Yeah, I guess I needed to refresh my memory on carpets.
That was a virgin reference in case you didn't catch it. Yeah.
I do feel touched for the very first time.
There you go.
I got your
there you go. Thank you. I know it's been a while. I feel like I've been away from the mic long enough that maybe I don't know. Maybe my references aren't hitting anymore. I'm not sure. I don't know.
You wonder if some of the younger generation knows. I guess they probably know who
they know. They have to know. They have to know.
Although I don't know any of the new music. Like
I've dated myself so many times where I just like bust out a Caddyshack reference and everyone like when I was in college and I'm significantly older than the college kids and I bust out like a Caddyshack reference and they all looked at me like, what the fuck, dude? And I'm like, oh my God, no. How can you not know? Like, go. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, are you kidding me? Go smoke some weed, kids, and go watch Caddyshack. Like, you guys will die. But maybe not. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the references don't hit the same anymore.
Humor has changed maybe a little. Yeah. Although, I don't know. We've watched a few shows recently that have been pretty funny. I think Melissa McCarthy always makes me laugh. She's hilarious, but she's in with her husband in the show called God's Favorite Idiot. That one's pretty funny.
Dude, you are an apex consumer of multimedia. I feel like no. You know how Eric is like, I always hear new and interesting music when I ride with Justin. Like. I feel like every time you're always putting out stuff that I've never heard of, but it's actually pretty funny or whatever. So,
I don't know if Eric got anything new out of this trip. I think the last trip was too recent, and I didn't really mess with my herping playlist, and so it's probably just the same stuff. But I felt kind of bad, but it could have been he was kind of section or cordoned off to the back and in the back seat and. It was.
Did you quarantine the Podfather in the back seat?
We put Podfather in the corner. So
nobody puts Podfather in the corner. That's awesome.
So, yeah, it was. But it was. I don't know. I love herping with Eric. He's just really just fun. He's always so upbeat and excited, and it was fun. Good stuff. It was just a good crew.
The genuineness and the excitement in Eric is always like it's right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my kind of people. I like that. In the moment kind of people. So
for sure. So it was good stuff. Good stuff. Well, we ready to get into this?
What is this?
This is another clip show. Wahoo.
Clip show.
Who doesn't love a good clip show? But just for fun, we're gonna flip the coin. So got to see if my luck's continuing on or if I used it all up in Arizona.
This is a test of the emergency coin flip system. If this had been an actual coin flip, we would have done a real show and not a clip show.
There you go. Well, I mean, both of us have been pretty swamped at work. We need to get something out, and so we thought, it'll be fun to talk about some of the. And we're up past we're up past a year, so we've got to be going on like 55 or so shows. So, we tried to do a clip show every 10 shows. So,
we're past 50, and Eric and Owen are almost to 500.
Yeah, we're toddlers, and
they're an order of magnitude. They're an order of magnitude bigger than us.
There you go.
As they should be.
Yeah. Oh, my stupid dog. He's trying to chime in here. Somebody must be coming over or something. Okay, if you can't hear him, that's good.
No, I can't.
All right, you ready to call it, sir?
Oh gosh, you're rushing me. Wow, I forgot. Wait, that's heads.
It is. You won it. You got the coin toss. All right. Well, that means you get to talk about our first show, or defer to me. But so, episode 31. I guess as far as my reckoning goes, I kind of skipped the clip shows as episodes. So this is episode 31 by that count, and this was the one on art that we did. We had Adeline Robinson on, so that was fun to talk to her, and man, she's got some cool artwork coming out.
She's killing it, dude.
Yeah, she's killing it. Yep, and she's traveling all over and doing all sorts of shows. So it's been fun to kind of keep an eye on her in social media and see what she's up to and some of her latest artwork. But
yeah, she just did a Williams side not too long ago that I saw. It was just like
there's one that needs to hang in your herp room,
my God! Well, I might have been tempted, but I'm like, no. You're broke. Don't do it. So.
Yeah. So that was fun to talk about art and kind of talk about. And I think there was another artist that I've seen recently that does like kind of in the style of the old school, like old herp book or like herpetological species descriptions or whatever, where they used to paint them, and so it's kind of in that old school, and it's like there's one of a spider tail viper eating a bird or something. He's like striking a bird, and it shows a spider tail, but it's kind of like that old school look to it. It's really cool. I can't remember the name. I need to look that up. But I should have done that beforehand. But we're going to focus on Adeline's art, I guess. But but it was. I think there is a need for that, and there's some good outlets. I was on the con side of that, which kind of sucked. But
and it's so funny. Like I hadn't really, when we were gonna have her on. I mean, I was super excited to have her on just because I'm interested in art. I think art has a place in culture and in life, and why not in reptiles? But it wasn't really until we had her on and that I really just kind of started interacting with her art and how she actually kind of, shows her process and how she creates. And I got to see like her life. I really realized how amazing having a reptile focused artist in the community really is. Right. And you have the Tell Hicks, you see, I think, and they remember when we went to Super Show, there was a guy selling art.
His wife cornered us, and
God damn, his wife was the salesman. Holy shit! My God,
he wasn't going to let us leave there without it.
And there was a couple pieces that were good, but the others were like not as Adeline quality. But
there you go.
Yeah, but it just I guess that whole show, and I guess like almost even moreover when we have guests that push me into places in the reptile community where maybe I never lifted that doormat before or didn't know it was there. I am so struck. And this was definitely one of those episodes where I was just like, man, this is really awesome. This is really cool. And she's just getting it. You know what I mean? Like I just, I don't know. I thought a lot of it of her. I think a lot of her art, and I just, in trying times that we have in this community, it's good to see people taking their talents and their passion for reptiles and going out there and getting it.
Yeah, and I mean it's so exciting to see somebody make that passion, turn it into making a living. That's great. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like a pretty cool life to travel to herp shows and sell your artwork and get to go see the country and get. It got me excited. Like I went out and bought an iPad and an Apple Pencil, like to try some of the digital art. It really inspired me. So yeah, that was really a fun show. I really appreciated that. And I think being on the con side, I didn't get to kind of put in my 2 cents, but I think there's a lot of benefit of, continuing to have art in science or in, illustration and things like that. You can just do things that you can't do with the camera. So there's a lot of benefits to having art, in herpetology.
Well, and I mean, art gives a portrayal of society, and it's interesting. I mean, it seems like a lot of her art focuses more on the animals and less on more social commentary, like a lot of art tends to do. But I mean, I guess art is across the board. You get all aspects of art, but like you had said, like it is really cool that. You see somebody who takes their talent and their love of reptiles and goes out there and makes carves out a living for themselves doing that. It's refreshing because it's like, it's easy to watch somebody be like, oh, they breed that, I'm going to go breed that. I'll do what they, and it's like, okay, cool. And she's not the only person doing reptile art, but she's definitely the only person I've ever seen doing it her way, doing her kind of style and kind of, the media she uses, and just the documenting and kind of the social media aspect of it is cool. Really stepping it up.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that was, I really enjoyed having her on and getting to know her a little bit. So yeah, thanks again to Adeline.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next show, Cohabitation, with Philip Leitz.
Phil!
Oh man, he's a cool guy. That was a lot of fun to have him on.
Is that you, man? Phil! Sorry, that was that's Eddie Murphy when he's in the strip club in Beverly Hills Cop 1, and they're gonna hold up the strip joint, and he pretends like he's drunk, and he's like, Phil, is that you, man? Phil, what's wrong? You changed, man. You changed. Oh man. If you haven't watched it, go watch that. That's one of my other favorite movies where Eddie Murphy just kills it in that movie. It's hilarious. So anyway, back to the real Phil.
To Mr. Leitz,
Yes.
I think so. I kind of have a rule that I only look at Instagram like for natural reptiles in a natural setting. So I don't really follow many herpetoculturalists, but I kind of made an exception for him. And so I follow him on, and man, he just puts out some amazing animals, just beautiful, Uromastyx and other species, kind of the desert lizards is his niche. And that was really fun. So I think that was a good
nipper. It's his nipper.
Gosh dang it. Yeah.
God, man. I mean, you went herping with him and yeah.
And I had to tell him about that. I'm like, oh, I guess you're not a listener. He's like,
oh, he doesn't know about nipper?
No,
what the hell?
I know. It's like, come on, man. I kept waiting for something from him, but it was pretty funny. But I explained the whole thing to him. So anyway, those desert nipper animals, mate.
So yes, Phil, you're right. Phil absolutely crushes it, and God, the stuff he produces is insane looking. Like it's like
I know. I really need to take him up on that offer to go, see his stuff and go herping with him and stuff.
Yeah. And what a cool guy, just very grounded, very hardworking. Just has that ethic of discipline and excellence, and very thoughtful guy, and just cool, man.
And has that upbeat, excited nature, and he's just like really excited to learn things and share things. Like he doesn't just kind of keep it all to himself. He's out there trying to help people figure things out. So it's really
cool. And he's one of those guys doing Euros really, 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 really high end game. And he's trying to help other people do that. And it's like, man, that, we always talk about, setting examples like that, and to see people who walk, it's easy to talk the path, but it's not always easy to walk the path. And he's clearly a guy who walks the path, and does it exceptionally well. And so much so that he's helped, Euros, do better. People have done better because of him, in a lot of ways. I talk like I know a lot about Euros, but just listening to him talk, I would definitely stand by that. I think he definitely has helped a lot of people, and is helping establish stuff that people weren't doing so well with before he came along.
Yeah, it seems like there's kind of few and far between that have really figured out Uromastyx, and he seems to have a really nice handle on them. I remember there was a local guy around here that was trying to make a go with the Uromastyx, and just ran into all these different troubles, and was having trouble getting them established and having them thrive and live long. And I always thought, oh man, they're difficult, but yeah, Phil's really nailed it.
And I think Phil's had his challenges, but he is one of those guys. He's disciplined. He's thoughtful. He goes at his problems, and he really takes, those precautions, and he works at scale. So it's, he's really doing, it's really easy to do something at small. I'm not going to say that. It's easier to do something difficult at a small scale, but to do something difficult at a larger scale is enormously more difficult. And unless you've done it, people don't understand. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he's definitely crushing it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really enjoy I've been a cohaber my whole herpetological career, it seems. And, I really like the idea of keeping animals together, letting them kind of figure out their own cycles and rhythms and stuff. I mean, it does make for a challenge, during feeding time but keeping them in larger enclosures definitely helps that. And having multiple hide areas and things like that can also improve the situation there. But, I've always been a proponent of co-having animals and, pairing up animals. Now, there are some risks in regards to disease. If you're keeping stuff together all the time, then, if you have one sick animal, then now you have two sick animals for the most part, unless you have something that's resistant. But anyway, they can have its challenges as well. But for the most part, I really like the idea of housing animals together and And I think it works pretty well. Like I don't see my stuff breeding for days on end or anything. No. I mean, they just get the job done and it's productive, and I may never see it or know about it, but when I know about it when I see the eggs come. So
yeah, I'm like a kid who got caught by his dad with the pot. I learned it from watching you, Justin. So, yeah, cohabbing. I definitely picked up cohabbing from you, and it's been fantastic for me. And like you said, I don't see a lot of breeding behaviors. I just watch for the signs of reproductive progress, and that's what I see. You know what I mean? And that's sometimes can be misleading. But I mean, but when the Tracier went, it was pretty obvious. When the Coastals went, it was pretty obvious. And some animals don't fool you, some animals do fool you a little bit. But it's that's the tough part. But I definitely think the benefits far outweigh the risks, and especially because you can mitigate those risks. Yes, our two animals in the same cage who smell food, kind of difficult to separate out. And, I try to pull one animal out when I feed, and sometimes that's a, it's a wild bunch evolution because they're both all keyed up, and they know they're getting fed and they're trying to chew on you.
Can be a little sketchy, but
it's a little dicey at times.
It's a much better method in my opinion, and I really enjoy doing it that way. Now, I mean, if you have a commercial business where you've got to worry about which ones pair up for which years, you may not want to leave stuff together all the time. And so I see there's definitely reasons not to cohab and to kind of mix things around. And it sounded like Phil knew guys that cohabbed your mastics, but he keeps his all individually housed. Yeah. So, it just depends on the keeper. It depends on your setup. It depends on the situation or what you're trying to accomplish. And, maybe a lot of people don't want to breed, so they're just keeping their animals separately. So, and I've, separated stuff, so I wouldn't have to overproduce or produce stuff that's being produced, by too many people already. So that's kind of, you can make that choice.
And I do separate stuff when I've, the Tracier, once I kind of figured out how they cycle and like figured them out, it's like, all right, I don't need to have them together from, these months to these months, cause I'm just going to feed them. And, I get like, I've seen it 2 years in a row, and their reproductive cycle was like almost to the day the same. So it's like, I don't need to mess with that. I don't need to experiment with that anymore. I know what it is. And so then, you can separate for your convenience and that's that. But definitely, I am pro cohab, but I get why it doesn't make sense, especially in Euros where they can be a little brutal on each other.
For sure. Yeah. They can beat each other up. So it was a really good discussion, and it was fun to have Phil on. We had him on again later too. So I think he's got all sorts of ideas, and I'm sure he'll be back for another episode. We maybe ought to reach out to him again, but he's really fun to discuss with and have those fights with. So good times.
Yep. Phil and his Wang Chung.
Yep. He's a Wang Chungin tonight. There's another old reference for you youngins. Chuck's folding tonight.
Of course, I'm old, dude. All I've got is old references.
All right, next topic: sketchy ethics. Ooh. This one was a kind of a difficult one to do, but it seems like there's a lot of sketchy ethics in the reptile trade. And so you got to be aware of those and kind of keep an eye out for them and stuff. But, it is what it is, I guess. What do you anything to add there? I think I can't remember if I was pro or con there, but I mean, obviously people use them and they must work to some extent. And it seems like people are going to buy animals from you, whether you're sketchy or not, if you have the animals they want. If you have something rare or something hard to get. And I mean, we've seen this with certain, importers that can import a species that nobody else seems to be getting. And so people almost are forced to deal with them because that's the only option for certain animal. And
I do have to say, like, I'm thinking out of a particular person. I got a pair of mangrove monitors from, and my mangrove monitors came in. They weren't bad. They started feeding. Like, I took them to the vet. Their fecal was clear. Like, it was not. I mean, did they come in a little rough? Yeah, they're wild caught animals. So it's like, so it's kind of like, I think it's kind of, you kind of gotta know what you're getting into, right? A little bit, like, but sometimes it's when stuff comes in heavily parasitized or just on death's door, that's when it's kind of like, what the. Why
are you sending that on?
I think that's the hardest. That's the bad part of the sketchy business ethic is like, hey, but so like in America today, we don't think twice when corporations pass pass costs off to the consumer. That's almost like to be expected. But when, an importer pass risk off right to the consumer, we're like, whoa, what the hell? Like, so are they supposed to take a sick, dying animal and keep it and knowing that it's going to die, or do they give it to you? And like, neither one of those is good. Like, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, neither one of those is good. And I can tell you ethically what the right thing to do is for your customers. That's not, there's no like, oh, I don't know. It's a toss up there. Like, I mean, but at the same time, like, we can't act so shocked when people pass the risk on to the consumer. Is it right? No, it's not right. I don't think my power company should do it. I don't think, my clothing manufacturer should do it. I don't think my reptile importer should do it. You know what I mean? But they do.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the trick, is that whole industry, the import of live animals, that's already kind of, like you said, kind of a sketchy base ground, like you're already starting on a sketchy surface. And so it's really difficult to choose to be ethical and to, care about your customers and stuff is probably very time consuming. You're losing a lot of money doing that. And so there's a lot of them are just like, what do you do? It is what it is.
I guess thinking about it though, on the other side of things, like imported tree monitors and imported bolini and imported scrub pythons, they're fetching big dollars now.
Oh yeah,
they went from I paid $500 for my trio of Traciae. Not anymore.
Probably at least 500 a piece or more.
At least. Yeah. I mean, 700, 800, 900 probably wouldn't even be.
If they're going for those prices, I don't know how, they can justify passing on the risk at that point.
And I think that's what I was driving at is at some level it becomes so obscene that it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
What are we doing here? Like, if you're selling a bolini for $10,000, that's wild caught. Oh, I'm sorry, farm bred in big air quotes. Is that even acceptable to have an animal that potentially croaks within, a couple weeks of being received? Like, I get it. It's live animals. Anything can happen, but come on, man. Like,
you can't pass that kind of risk on to your customer.
Dude. No,
not a $10,000 animal that keels over and dies, because then they're coming back to you.
And I will give credit to some of the bolini, resellers that I see or importers that I see, is they're keeping the animal. They're when they sell they're establishing it, and when they sell it, that or they find a buyer for it, they send them a quality animal. I don't like the way they price but I have to give those people their just dues because they are, they're doing a service in that sense of like,
for sure,
protecting their customer base,
definitely
in that sense.
And granted, those prices are a little bit high, but really, I mean, I think we should kind of be pushing for that. I don't think we should be having a disposable pet industry in any way. So, I think good riddance to that sketchy practice. And I mean, it's still around, but with certain species, it seems to be going away. And as animals fetch higher prices, you need to import fewer and you need to take better care of them. It's like, I don't know. I kind of think maybe that's better in some ways. Mm-hmm. So as long as they're doing the better care associated with the higher price, but maybe that's not always the case. But,
yeah. And I definitely feel like, if you can look at importers and they're an easy, that's a sketchy practice that they do there. But really, it's that keeper who buys it, who's well skilled and has the potential to establish that species. They need to do work. They need to work at a high skill level. They need to do the hard work to establish that species, and then they need to fill leads it for everybody else, so that you can tie that sketchy shit off, because now America's making captive bred tree monitors at a much higher rate. And they're making captive scrub pythons at a much better rate. Well, maybe,
I mean, you would hope that the imports would be a limited thing. You'd only need them once in a while to bring in some new bloodlines to people who are well versed in how to keep them and how to establish them. Tracy, you're a great example, and you've done really well. And you're on your way to, keeping the U.S. market supplied with captive bred, in the U.S.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Don't.
Well, I mean, you reset the clock a little bit there, changing them up in their cages. You got to stick with what works, I guess. But they probably needed the year or two off anyway, so why not?
Yeah, and Shane hopefully I don't know if you saw Shane's post.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
That sucks, man. But I was like,
lost his male. It was his male, right? Did you say he picked up another female, or what was that?
Boy, I thought I knew, and now you just threw me in, and now I'm like, I don't know. I thought he lost his female, but maybe I completely. I mean,
it seemed like he lost his male, and then he had another female that came in or something. So I don't know.
I think that is correct.
That'd be good. I mean, if he got a new female, then he could breed it with one of his captive bred animals. You know? I'm not sure. You probably know. I imagine he held on to some.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. So just sucks. Like that's not something I ever want to see. It was just.
I think the moral of the story is don't engage in sketchy practices, even if it's successful in the short term or even in the long term. Don't engage in sketchy practices. Let's do ourselves a favor and be good citizens and do good work, and help each other out. All right, next up, venomous mentorship with old Wolf of
Wolf.
Phil Wolf, what a great guy. Man. It was a pleasure herping with him, man. He's just same kind of thing, just really upbeat, always, excited about stuff, just a wealth of knowledge, but what a cool guy. So that was fun to have him on. He's really an expert in that venomous area, and I saw a video from him the other day on, I think it was on Facebook or whatever. I mean, by the way, he put out a really cool video of our trip, kind of a summary video of the trip showing the different landscapes and animals that we saw. So that was cool. I think it was like 7 crotalus in 7 days or something like 7 rattlesnakes in 7 days, something like that. But what a fun guy to herp with, and what a pleasure to be around him. But yeah, he knows the venomous really well. And the video that I saw that I was going to mention was him setting up some new, either babies or new imports or something. But he was like, doing everything with a hook and keeping well away from the pointy end, and, setting him up and doing like not doing things with his hands until it was in place, and he's like, venomous keeping, what a thrill. It's like just if you do it right, it's pretty boring,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the idea, right? Like, you do not want an exciting venomous career because those can be short, right?
Yeah, they tend to end poorly. Yeah,
exactly.
You can always tell a venomous keeper of many years because they're usually missing a finger or two, or they have missing digits. Or
I mean, if Terry Phillip can get bit, anybody can get bit.
That's for dang sure. Yeah, that man is a legend. But so it was good to hear kind of Phil's take on that and to understand that, there are some guys out there who are kind of spreading the wrong information or not really the best mentors. So when picking a mentor to learn about venomous keeping, make sure you pick a good one.
You want to learn from El Chapo, not El Crapo. Sorry, that was really bad. That was dad joke bad.
That was dad joke.
Sorry, it was a long day.
And I think, there's not many excuses for, learning about people in your area or learning about different venomous keepers or even interacting online, with certain keepers. And even if you are limited in your, selection of who can give you hours or who's willing to give you hours in your area, you can always interact with others online and kind of discuss the things you're being taught and see if they have, ways of doing it better. So, keep learning.
I don't want to but when we were talking to Phil, I felt like, in the examples that he mentioned where he was being taught and he was being taught in the wrong way, I felt like Phil knew that what he was being taught wasn't probably the best way to do it. You know what I mean? Or maybe had some kind of an inclination of like, man, this is kind of sketchy. This is, and I think that's, that's an important part is applying that common sense and saying like, maybe this person isn't the best venomous mentor for me. And if they're the only person around, man, I don't know, that's a rough spot to be in. And I guess, I live in a big city. I probably have more people around me than I realize, who, probably have a rattlesnake or something. But I mean, I just, it's just, I guess when we talk about like all this stuff going on and going back to the NPR chat about, Florida and the venomous keeping stuff. And it's just like, we're really in a time where we can't afford to be doing dumb stuff.
Definitely. Yeah. And I really appreciate experts like Phil coming on the show to kind of, help us understand these things. Cause
we're idiots. We don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I kept a couple rattlesnakes as a kid, but guaranteed I wasn't.
For God's sakes, every herp trip, you almost step on one. I mean,
yeah. I haven't been bit, knock on, all the wood in the area, but, that's something that, it's the more you're around venomous stuff, the more likely it is. So, of course, keep yourself as far away from the pointy end and use all tools available and, don't do stupid things. Now, that said, I did tail that coral snake. I had a hook as well, but Nipper chewed me out, called me a dirty free handler. So
he did.
What do you do? Yeah, he was not happy. He's like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, dude, I don't even think the thing could get its mouth around me, and I had a hook and I would have, dropped it if it would have swung at me or something. But, you think you know what you're doing until you get bit. And then you realize, no, I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing. So,
well, that's why they always call it an accident. Cause
there you go.
When you started out, you didn't intend for that to happen.
Yeah, for sure. So it was good to hear Phil's take on that. And, hopefully that was helpful to somebody that's interested in keeping venomous. And seeing those cool rattlesnake species, it's like, I would love to keep some of those. They're just too cool, too cool. But, Yeah, that's something I'll have to do.
No, especially after like being around that SPAC and then all the Cerastes we found. I'm like, it's easy. It's easy to be like, this isn't a big deal. This isn't a big deal. You know what I mean? Like so I use a hook and I'm safe and I keep my distance and like, there's just so much thinking that goes into it. And you have to really like everything that you do has to be well thought out. And I recognize the fact that I'm probably not as well thought out as
They're talking about that on Carpets and Coffee, the last episode. And, that making that mental switch between venomous and non-venomous, because non-venomous, who cares if you get bit? But one bite from a venomous could be turn south very easily. So you need to be, have that mental switch and even have like a dedicated day. Like I'm only working with venomous. I'm not distracting myself with this or that or the other. And everything's deliberate. Everything's well planned out and thought through. And, that can be a challenge, especially in our hectic lives. And
it's just like, I don't remember. What's his name? He's is it Alan? He does a YouTube channel, but he's like is he the venomous keeper? But he keeps a lot of venomous and his room's really crowded and he brings stuff out and
so he's like jumping on the floor.
It's really it's like it's tough to watch. You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm so worried for this dude right now. And I mean, Viper Keeper. That's what it was. That's what it was. And I mean, he's been doing it a while. I don't keep venomous, so I'm not going to criticize him. But I watch the videos and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would not have that snake in that cluttered area. But I don't know. You know what I mean? Like I'm not.
Well, that's the problem with a lot of these YouTubers that have, decades of experience behind their belt. So they make it look easy and make it look like, oh, this is no big deal, and even if they put the warnings up like, oh, it's dangerous and stuff, still by their actions and their sketchy practices, they're sending the wrong message and they can really lead somebody down the wrong path. Like, oh, I want to do that. I want to interact with my venomous snakes like that, but then they get bit and then they're not taking any responsibility. Oh, I had a warning that said, don't do what I'm doing because, I know what I'm doing and you don't, kind of thing at the first of my videos. But how often does that stop stupid behavior? And then it, can be a legislative issue. So it's just really, I think on the NPR chat, they were talking about that guy with the big gauged ears and all the tattoos that was just free handling his big Western Diamondback hybrid or whatever. And just
like a ball python, right?
Yeah. That's what they say, and people are people who don't know reptiles are sending that video to reptile people saying, what is this? Is this
real? Is this,
is this what you guys do? Is this what you do in your spare time? I always get asked how many snakes that you keep are venomous. How many do you keep that are poisonous? That kind of thing. And so, and I'm just like, none. I don't have any venomous snakes. And they're like, really?
I'm like, why would I do that? I have kids, man. I got
Yeah, there are some very cool venomous reptiles out there that I would love to keep, but it's just the risk versus reward is difficult to justify in some ways. And
I don't have the money. I don't have the money if I get envenomated. That's for sure.
And I have stuff get loose. Like just the other day, I went over to my Hosmer's spiny-tailed skink cage. And I'm like, I haven't seen him out very much basking very, often lately. So I lift up the rock and there's one in there. So I lift up the other rock and there's just one in the cage. I'm like, there's nowhere else it could be. It's gone. Like, where did it go? And when did it go? When did it get out? And I do remember I didn't latch the cage correctly. Like the little spring lock didn't click or whatever.
Click, yeah.
And so, I came out there and the cage was open, but I thought I saw both of them in there. So I just closed the door and I'm like, they don't try to get out. They're just going to hang out.
That so thing anyway, Jedi mind tricked you, dude. It was like, all of a sudden I'm just in the cage.
Yeah. All of a sudden I'm like, freaking out because I've got a loose, Hosmer
on the loose
in the room, and so I'm looking everywhere, and And then finally, I push over my wheel cart and there's a shed skin right there. And so I'm like, okay, she's got to be somewhat close. And I look and she's in the rack, in one of the racks, like behind a tub on the heat. And I'm like, oh, good. She's still alive. And so I got her back in the cage. And so she's been back in there eating and doing her thing. But
that's what I like about scrubs and carpets is you lose one, you just look up, look up and they're up there somewhere. Like somewhere
and usually
up there.
Stuff knocked off a shelf.
Yeah, you can kind of like they give you like a path that they went and then they found a spot up high to hide.
Oh yeah, for sure. So yeah, that would make me a little nervous if I kept venomous because I do stupid things like leave a cage open and don't think about it, So yeah, be mindful and be safe if you're gonna work with venomous, and learn from somebody like Phil who knows what they're doing and takes all precautions. Thanks again, Mr. Wolf of Wheeler Eye.
Yeah, we need to have him on again.
Yeah, he's got that.
I know you got your fill of Phil, but I didn't get my fill of Phil. Yeah,
my fillet of Phil.
I'm still hungry like the wolf.
Oh man, you got some good ones, Steven. All right, another fun guest show, Power Feeding with Nick Mutton and Casey Cannon.
This was a good episode.
That was a fun one, yeah. And again, I mean, Nick is a wealth of information. Casey as well. I really like Casey's really analytical and just
Casey brought it on that episode.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I personally don't think that you can argue with Casey's.
Some of the points he brought up were very solid, and you really couldn't refute them too easily. Yep. And I actually got some feedback from some of the listeners that were like, "Oh, that was a great episode," and I really, I think. I was thinking, how can you defend power feeding? Then all of a sudden Casey did it. Yep. And, I was like, oh, okay, that's how you defend it. So Casey kind of got the,
and he did it against a guy who, by all of his own admissions, doesn't feed very much stuff at all. Yeah. Like he's a Mr. Keep it small, keep it. And, that's a strategy. Sure. And I mean, we've talked about the golden spoon hypothesis, probably ad nauseum on this show. So, I think it was just a great debate of that paper and that idea. And,
it was some good stuff all around. And it's really, I like to think things through, think things, it's not always a simple yes or no. And again, that's the beauty of this podcast is we can see things from different angles, consider things you may not have ever considered or thought about. And so it's really good to hear people say, I'm changing my view on this a little bit because am I going to, chain feed my snake so I can get it to breeder size in 16 months? No, but am I going to, maybe feed a juvenile more than I'm feeding my adults? Sure. Or cycle feed or something because
I think people would be fairly shocked at how I feed my Tracy eye when I'm feeding them. When I'm not feeding them, people would be shocked at how I don't feed my Tracy when I don't feed them. You know what I mean? Like, but they definitely get a prolonged period of metabolic rest where they're not being fed, but they definitely get a workout and they put that weight on. And by the time, these animals are ready for food, the mom would be off the eggs. My male looks very skinny and very hungry right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he was huge rolling into this past season. So,
Yeah, that's the way it goes. So I really appreciated the insights from those guys. And again, it's hard to get, better guests than those two. And they did a really good job with the topic. And Nick even let Casey have a word or two in there once in a while.
I feel like I might have had to be like, Casey, did you have anything to say on this? Maybe once or twice. Maybe once.
Maybe, yeah. You gotta be a good host, And I'm looking forward to Nick's new podcast with Lucas, so that should be fun. curious to hear that. I heard them announce that on Morelia Pythons a bit back, and so yeah, looking forward to that. Should be good to hear. And speaking of Nick, we approved the blue line, so the books should be off to the printers now, and we should have books with in the next month or two. So pretty exciting. Can't wait to have that thing in my hand. It's gonna be good. All right, we on to the next one.
Let's go.
On to
I was just thinking about when you're really gonna get the book in my hands.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it might take a little bit, but rest assured, you'll be one of the first to get ones.
Progress is progress.
You're the co-host, right?
Man.
You're on the podcast with me.
I'll give you top billing. I just need my copy benefit, first. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
On to the next one. Reptile Choices with the man, the myth, the legend, Ron St. Pierre.
Ooh, buddy.
I'm just still in awe of that guy.
Yeah.
All the experiences he has, all the skill in herping and all the knowledge, and just what a cool guy he is. I mean, so many of the kind of that group of herpers that are, been around for a while, know their stuff. They're not coming on podcasts and chatting with us. They're off, being hermits or, hiding out from the world. And it's like Ron's out there in the, forefront and talking to people. And he's said really nice things about our podcast. Just what an all around class
awesome
act.
Dude.
Great guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's definitely
definitely
my flexa dude. I just everything he says, I'm like, we would totally hang out and have fun.
Yeah. There we go. We need to make a road trip.
Yeah, I'm telling you, that was some no bullshit committal from me, man. And you know how non-committal I can
make
be
it happen
sometimes.
In the spring or something.
Yeah,
get something going for the right time of year, and go out and do some herping with Ron. That would be fantastic.
Dope.
Record a show or two from the field.
Yeah.
That'd be cool. Yeah. But yeah, that was, I really like this topic. And I remember having a conversation with Terry Phillip back in the day and hearing some of the stories, working in a zoo and trying to figure out different species and getting them, established and reproducing and things. And just some of the things like they just wouldn't make good choices. They bask when they shouldn't be basking, or, they freeze to death because they didn't have, so I think they have to understand their environment and like Ron said, these keeping things outdoors can be very challenging.
Yep.
And they often will understand, how to make good choices, but if they don't have the right tools, that makes it very difficult for them.
Well, and I think that's, that was one of the things I got out of it is Ron really thought through how to make very straightforward but effective methods for helping them, in the outside environment to have safe choices, and
his screwed down deck, what they can go under and kind of thermoregulate
just
from
throwing bags of mulch on top so that it's that mulch goes in there, but I use it as an insulated layer, just bagged up, that makes total sense. That's a great idea. Very no nonsense, not I don't want to say no frills, but it's just very simplistic yet highly effective.
Yeah, and I mean he's got some pretty cool innovations in those cages.
For sure, I didn't mean it's not but no, but
I know what you meant.
He's using when he was talking about the roaches. And
I love that story.
Yeah. I mean that's he's using nature, science-based nature to really, really screw down things that work really well. Yeah.
Oak leaves in his yard, the sand, from his yard, the shade and the sun from his yard, everything's just, he's really thinking it through. And, like he said, he's learned from hard experience too, where, you don't realize this time of year, the sun's in the right place, but in a few months, that giant tree right there is going to shade it and make it very difficult for that animal to get, the thermal regulation and things. So I think he really did a good job of bringing that point across and oh man, what a just wealth of knowledge and just a cool guy.
Yeah,
I really
he's just
talking with him,
his stories and his personality. Yeah. He like can tell a great story, but get your gears turning at the same time. And I appreciate people with that level of like, man, you're personable, you're fun, like you have great stories, and man, my head was spinning after I got done talking to him. It was just like,
I'm still spinning from his talk about the dew point and, all that kind of talk. That's just such cool observations and, makes so much sense. And great things we need to incorporate into herpetoculture. And I've been doing a lot of different things because of that. I'm not sure how much of a benefit because I don't have a control group where I'm not doing that or, doing the things that how I used to do it. But so, but just cool ideas and cool topics. And I think, should make a lot of great strides in the reptile and herpetoculture in general. So
definitely.
What a legend, man. What a legend.
My man.
Yep. We need to have him back on again. We've had him on since that show and we'll hopefully have him on again if we can find a worthy topic for the king. So, yep. Next was reptile stress. And I think this was an interesting topic for sure. And, good stress versus bad stress versus, if you just have a couch potato animal that has no stress, is that any better than having an animal that's extremely stressed? So we kind of talked in our limited knowledge on the topic. It would be good to revisit that one. And I think it was Bill Bradley was talking about some ideas for a guest or for a future show. So we need to take him up on that. And, speaking of Bill, we ought to have him back on too.
I know, right?
We've had some really good guests on here. I mean, he's got his own podcast and, I enjoy listening to his stuff. And so it's, but it'd be fun to have him back on. But reptile stress, fun to talk about, but limited knowledge base. For us.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's, it is kind of tough. And, I think like, especially, from my experience of Tracier and stuff, animals just falling over dead and you're kind of like, what was that about? And the thing we know about a lot of Somalia is that they stress easy. They're high strung. They stress easy. So people are taking it as a stress issue. And I tend to think it probably has something to do with it. I think there's probably multiple things going on there, but, certainly, stress can be bad, but it's hard for me. I think stress, has a place. I think, I think resource stress can cue animals to do lots of things. It's hard for me to believe that all stress is bad stress. I think we see stress in our lives and maybe the stress we see in our lives is maybe anthropomorphizing a little bit for sure. Yeah, definitely. But I think, if you can see how stress affects humans, and you can say like, okay, stress doesn't always affect me in a negative way. Why couldn't that be true for reptiles? Right. So to me, like maybe not anthropomorphizing, but just saying like that's potentially, a good premise that not all stress is bad stress.
I guarantee that males battling each other for females is a very stressful event. It takes a lot out of them, but a lot of species still do that, and it plays a very important role. So and I think it was a good kind of primer to think about it and to kind of dip your toes in the water. Even though we didn't have maybe a scientific background in that regard, we do have some practical experience with that. So it's a good start. Hopefully, we can maybe flesh that topic out some more. And I think this show is designed to do that, to revisit some of these topics and kind of see it from a different angle or get some different input or hear from an expert in the area. So, definitely something we could revisit in a few shows.
And I think if we just had somebody who could talk about the hormonal effects of stress on reptiles, we really would be a lot further along than us two dumbasses just talking about stress and reptiles.
Then how do we debate them? That's the question. But there's a professor.
We lose with grace and humility, like we do so well when people know what they're talking about.
There you go. Yeah. So anyway, something we can visit. But there is a professor at our university she specializes in kind of. She's done some studies on reptilian stress and
nice. I like this already.
Disease and things like that. So immune system function.
Hit her up, dude. What are you doing?
I know. I haven't seen her for a couple of years with the pandemic and stuff. I've been on a couple committees with her and and see her in meetings or hear her speak here and there, but I don't really have that close a relationship. Or she's probably in Ecuador in the Galapagos studying, lizards there or something, or Grand Cayman or something, looking at the island iguanas or something. But anyway, I'll have to get her on down the road if she'll be willing to come on. All right. Next was taxonomy with Phil and Casey. This was kind of a fun, more of a funny background on that one. But Phil Wolf and Casey Cannon came back on. They hadn't been on. I mean, we talked about them a couple minutes ago and they're back on already. So I guess they were having a late night discussion on taxonomy and, Casey thought it was pretty BS and Phil was all, defending it. And so they're like, hey, why don't we go on Reptile Fight Club? So we got him on I think that same day or same,
that was one of the easiest bookings I think we'd had for two guests.
It was right on the heels of hey guys, we had this idea. Okay. Tomorrow.
We do have some no nonsense guests and those two are definitely no nonsense guests. So,
and it was a fun show and
it was a fun show.
Taxonomy definitely has a place, but it's got its failings too.
Hey, man!
Hey, there it is.
Rumors! Yeah. Chill, dude! Oh, she's so wound up right now.
Yeah. So, it is fun to talk about taxonomy, even though none of us are really experts in the area. So, I still have my issues with some of these, some of the papers and things or information that's put out there, but what do you do? I guess we can debate it or rag on some of the things we don't like, but it is what it is, and it's been that way. And I don't see it changing too much, but I will say that if you don't have to agree with a published paper. You can disagree with it. That's the beauty of science. There's nothing set in stone. Just because somebody publishes a paper doesn't mean you have to adopt that or you have to say this is, how it is. And that's the big difficulty in herpetological publications is that there's not a lot of funding. So usually it's just one paper, kind of one and done. And unless somebody feels really strongly against something that's been published, it's just going to go, it's just going to be the new thing. So anyway, that was
what Justin is saying translated is the children's paper is crap.
And I don't know that it's all crap, but I don't agree that, all of Stimson eye should be sunk into children eye. But
anyway. and that whole thing was very interesting with people who, maybe, or I don't want to say do, but probably should recognize the problems with that paper, who seem to just kind of, recognize the paper as semi-valid, even if they don't maybe fully agree. And what does that mean? How does that shake out? It is kind of interesting, and taxonomy is kind of a funny nut.
It's a strange animal for sure. And what can you do? And I guess, herpetoculturalists have really had a long history of kind of ignoring some of that. And we still call chondros, even though they're Morelia viridis and not Chondropython viridis or Azuria.
Yeah, so, but if we stuck to the taxonomical nomenclature, would taxonomists take herpetoculturalists more seriously anyway? No, not really. So just call it a chondropython because that's what you know what I mean? Like there's
it all boils down to communication. If you know what each other is talking about, and I mean, if you're out there using scientific nomenclature and nobody knows what species you're talking about, like sometimes when people get into, arachnids or something, they'll use scientific names and I have no clue what they're talking about.
Justin's like, whoa, you dial that mumbo jumbo back.
Come on, jive turkey. So yeah, it can be a challenging topic, but I thought it was a fun debate between Phil and Casey, and had a good time with those guys on again. So, and yeah, they do come up with some really cool ideas. I enjoy listening to, Snakes and Stogies or some of the other shows that are on the other network, the network that shall not be named. But, we enjoy the collaboration with that group as well. So, yeah. I really enjoy
the
collaboration. I want to have Justin Smith on again. I really like his ideas, and he has a fun way of thinking about things too. He did take some, I wouldn't say offense, but he was debating the use of Schmidt-Tier's scale. So he's like, I finished the hike, and it wasn't about finishing the hike, Justin.
No. Listen,
it was about complaining about the hike while you were on the hike. Either do it or don't do it, but don't whine about it.
No naval aviator ever gave himself his own call sign. You get named your call sign, and it's usually because of something you fucking did, right? And guess what? Everyone's calling you by your call sign, whether you like it or not. So
I still enjoy that. And Nipper Niche had a very long.
No, you got to use it in context. You just can't call Nipper Niche when you're talking about Nipper. You got to be talking about niches to call it Nipper.
and he had a whole ranking 1 through 5 of the amount of Schmidt-Tiers based on millennials on a hike or something. It was pretty funny. So. I'm sure
now I just want to call him the artist formerly known as Niche.
Yeah. All right. Next up on the list was breeding for localities. I think this is a fun topic. Yeah. I like it, and it's kind of an ever raging debate among carpet python fans.
I really feel like I've settled down with this, and I think you can take your locality and shove it right in your butt. I mean, you
dirty morph maker.
Well, no, it's not about being a morph maker now. Now stop it. That's,
I like my Western blackheads. I'm not breeding them to those dirty Eastern.
Well, oh my gosh, this thing.
See, he agrees. He's like, don't do it. Don't breed a Western to an Eastern. No, I mean, I get it. It's all snakes in boxes. It's all, yeah.
Sorry.
It's all snakes in boxes. So it has no bearing on anything really. And some people are going to breed localities and some people aren't going to care.
Yakapuri Depot is a road. It's not a place. It's a road.
Yeah.
So
how long is that road?
I have no idea. No idea.
I still couldn't find it. They said it was kind of outside of Brisbane, but then
I'd have to go back because I was given Iper a bit of a poking, where it was between two towns, and so I took half of each town and merged it into one word and said we should call it this. And he didn't like that at all. Oh, yeah. And I'm just like, well, it's all made. I mean, it's so it's a locality based on a road. What?
Hey, you got all sorts of localities like that. I mean, graveland localities are all roads,
Yeah, I get that.
Or mountain ranges, or or road intersections, or things like that.
And I guess coming from a guy who's carpets travel long distances, is that how valid is that?
Yeah,
do they just travel along that road?
Do we have any indication on that? I don't know. If I found something within 20 miles on the same road, I'd probably think they might have met up.
Are you saying that Mr. Iper's assertion is bullocks? Sorry, I just wanted to use that word. I didn't. Yeah, I don't really mean that. I just
good use of the word.
Thank you.
It's like in your Fight Club bingo,
Yeah.
Chuck saying bollocks. I mean, that'd be a difficult square to fill on most episodes. But this one, you got it. You got it.
No, yeah.
So yeah, I think I like localities. I like trying to keep things as locality specific as possible, but I understand there are difficulties with that, and people try to make certain things probably more than they need to be, but I don't know. In cases where all of a sudden you're splitting species, if you're breeding like a Jayapura green tree with the Aru green tree, all of a sudden you've got a hybrid once they separate the species, so locality at least keeps you within the same species for the most part.
The Jaipu.
Yeah, the Jaipu, or what do they call the Arubiacs? Yeah, the
Arubiacs. Yeah, that's a good one.
Those hybrids or Arubiacs are hybrids. So, I don't know. It is what it is. They're snakes in boxes.
Yeah, I mean, and look, I do think that locality has a place in naming something.
Sure.
When you say Brisbane coastal, to Americans, we know what that means, right? We understand what that is. And so when you say, oh, this is the, even if you didn't keep that coastal bred to quote unquote Brisbane locality lines, you forever understand what the Brisbane locale is until we find another, locality Brisbane brought in, and then you're kind of like, oh, wait, what? Wait, there's two lines of locality Brisbanes? Yeah. Oh, I don't get that. Right. Like, so for us, when it's nice and simple, right?
Yeah.
It's a name that helps identify something that we recognize. But in the way that it's like, oh, this is, like,
well, it's the when we simplify it and say this is what it looks like. For example, the gelatin jungles, there are those really cool kind of gray and black or white and black examples,
which people that's what people think of.
Yeah, that's
when
what
they
you think
see
of when you
because
say
that's
gelatin.
what you've seen.
Yeah,
but when you go there,
limited gene pool that's available in the U.S. or Europe or whatever. But if you go there, that's 10% of the population is black and white. The rest look, and we've actually got a cool panel in the book, a figure that's got 6 different, little pictures of gelatin locality jungles that are all different looks to them and all, you can see the diversity.
And I think when the book comes out, it will do a lot of justice to reinforce kind of what I'm saying here. Is that locality has its place, but don't get it messed up with, subspecies appearance or don't make broad generalizations about it, because there's stuff that, crosses subspecies that you wouldn't guess is the subspecies it is, right? Mm-hmm. Like they look so crazy.
Well, so, Brisbane coastals are probably a fantastic example of that. You have a huge range. And I would say in that chapter in the book, most of the individuals that we have photographs in the wild of are from around the greater Brisbane area. They're concentrated in that region because so many people live there. So many people interact with them, see them in their yard, see them in their, down the road from their house, on the street or whatever, pull them off the road, get a picture in a tree. There's a picture for the book, so there's a huge variety and look to those. So when you think of Brisbane coastals, I mean, there's no one look that's a Brisbane coastal. They range, from a hypo looking thing to, black
caramels to reds to the silver to the silver kind of peppery looking coastals. Like, I mean, they have, and that's the icing on the cake for me, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's what going over to Australia does for you. Is you get over there and you see, oh, I'm finding something that doesn't fit my idea of what it should look like. The Mount Glorious coastal carpet that I found looked almost like a jungle. It was black and yellow and banded and just looked really jungly, but it was not a jungle, and it was from near Brisbane, as kind of that area. So,
but when you are heard that jungles are rainforests, carpets, you're like, oh, well then I guess when I see it like that makes sense, right? So when you see it over there and you see it in context and in gene flow around other stuff, you're like, oh, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
Now,
and when you're 20 miles up and you're in a kind of more of a grassland area with sparse trees, and all of a sudden they look like a typical coastal, you're like, okay, so it is an adaptation to a jungle or a forest or a grassland or whatever, So
you can see that, you can see it in situ. It makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think in herpetoculture, we have such limited gene pools and we have such limited variety that we think this is how it has to look, or else it's not that, we can
exactly.
say, oh, and I saw something recently. Somebody posted a picture of a wild green tree python from the Iron Range. And typically they have that vertebral, stripe of the individual, white scales. This one had very little, if any, at all, and they're, oh, that can't be iron. I'm taking a picture of it in the Iron Range. It's an iron, that kind of thing. So, oh wow, look at there's no white stripe. So there is variability, and so I think that's the downside of breeding for localities is we get that idea is this is the look, and
it perpetuates. It definitely perpetuates a mindset, and it's no problem for Aussies, right? Because one, they're like, locality.
They can't just go out and catch something. And
I get that, but they can also go out and herp and see like, mate, these Americans don't understand what they're talking about. They don't see the variation. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They see it. We
they
don't.
Definitely see the variability. And
we look at our captive populations as like an example, and it's not. It's not. Exactly. It's not a.
And I think they look at us and kind of laugh and say, "These guys don't know what they're talking about."
And I get that. I mean, it's. No, I don't always want to say it's a fair assessment, but their point is taken.
And I mean, of course, we're focusing on carpets because we like carpets, and there's a carpet book coming out. But that was one of the cool advancements on the book, is that we took the range maps and took all the pictures in the species, just species natural history chapters or whatever you want to call them. And for each of the figures, there's a corresponding number on the map to show where that individual was found. And so, you kind of see the diversity across their distribution. Now, some are more concentrated than others, and we have a lot of individuals like of diamond pythons from near Sydney, but we have very few further, down south in their range because there's just less people down there and not as many people taking pictures of diamond pythons apparently. But, that kind of, I really like the idea of, the range maps and seeing where things come from and kind of what looks are in the population. So, Good topic. It always gets our ire up on the discussion. So that was a fun discussion. And then the final topic for tonight is mental health. And I think this was a needed discussion. People need to be aware of their mental health and keep that in mind especially when you're keeping something else that's alive. You've got to be aware of your own mental health, because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not going to take care of another animal very well either. So, and it's a real thing, and it's just like any other medical condition. If you're having those issues, then get it checked out, get professional help. There's no shame. And I think that's a nice thing about current times, is that stigma and shame of depression or, anxiety is going away. Now, maybe the pendulum's swinging a little bit the other way, and people are saying, oh, I can't do that because I have anxiety or depression, and they're using it more as an excuse or a crutch. But, be aware of your own mental health, especially if there's another animal on the line.
Yeah. And I think,
if you need it.
bottom line is everybody experiences some sort of a mental crisis in their life. I don't think any human gets away from life unscathed from mental illness of some form or another. You know, I mean, it's not a question of if, it's when, and if you own, you know, just like if you own dogs or cats, or, I mean, you know, you have an obligation to the animals that are under your care. And, you know, it's one of those things where, you know, plan in good times for what you're going to do in bad times. And, you know, obviously people fall apart, and, you know, there's an adage about best laid plans, but, you know, kind of, you know, make sure you're trying to do your best.
And sometimes, you know, the animals that we enjoy, can help us through those times. You know, you can kind of throw yourself into it and focus on your animals when you may not be in the best spot. And that kind of helps you get back into it, because you get some enjoyment out of the reptiles. Mm-hmm. Not to say that external things can necessarily help all, you know, of these mental health issues, but you know, definitely keeping animals and interacting with nature and going out herping. She's telling us to wrap it up,
dude.
We're going. This is, I think, might be one of our longest shows. We're going on a minute 50 here, so hopefully we still have some of you out there listening. But you know, we definitely appreciate all our guests and have had a blast doing these shows, and hopefully you've gotten something out of the discussions we're having. If you have any new insights or see something from a different angle, hit us up and we'll get you on the show. We're in, you know, trying to round up some people to come on the show and give us some more content. So let us know if you're interested. Reach out to Chuck or myself, and we'll try to schedule you in and get you on. If you've got a good topic, you got to bring the goods. No, none of this weak sauce in here.
That's right. We don't do weak sauce. Well, we do we do weak sauce once in a while. It's good weak sauce though. It's like the sauce they put on the In-N-Out burger. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
It's like American salsa, you know.
Yeah.
It's like they say, "Do you want extra hot?" And you say, "Sure." And then you get it and you're like, "This is not extra hot.
This is not extra hot.
This is American extra hot.
Yeah.
This is not."
Yeah.
All right. Well, my friend, thank you for being here and doing this. I know you've had a rough work week, and
it's been pretty brutal.
Yeah, things will settle down a little bit, but yeah, we'll get back together soon and get another. Hopefully, you'll be able to catch us again next week for another Reptile Fight Club. But thanks for listening, and we'll catch you again later.
Until then, it's the Crumpets niche, the Crumpets Fight Club.